right, welcome to the show, everybody. Today I have a guest of Tom Eggert, who's a retired UW professor and the cool thing, founder and president of WorldWise MicroFinance, which I'm going to let you tell us about. We had a little bit of a chat previously. Super cool topic. And for those of you that are listening, when you're thinking about how you support entrepreneurialism or what the cause that you have is, I think you're going to be super interested to hear what Tom's doing. So, Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. Let me maybe start with just sort of how we got. So we're a 15-year-old nonprofit, and I never set out to create a nonprofit. It was just sort of, it happened. I had a student in my class from Haiti in fall of 2009. He went home for Christmas and ended up being on the last flight out of Port-au-Prince before the earthquake in Haiti of 2010. Some of the listeners will remember perhaps that was actually the first natural disaster that we could donate to the American Red Cross on our phone.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when you told me that. That's cool.
That technology had advanced to that point. And so there's a lot of attention being paid to the devastation that Haiti and Haitians had experienced. And there were all kinds of aid organizations. So there was food and water and shelter and medicine that were all flowing into the country.
Sure.
But the dilemma that was being left unaddressed was, what are all of these people who survived the earthquake, but the owner of the business that they worked for didn't survive the earthquake, or the building that they used to work in didn't survive the earthquake? What are they going to do now? And the class raised $3,000 because everybody was raising money for Haiti at that point.
Sure.
And we were trying to find an organization to send it to. And we couldn't find one looking from this country, and Jurgen's parents couldn't find an organization that they identified as active looking from within Haiti. And so we had read a book by Muhammad Yunus, Banker for the Poor, which is all about the development of the Grameen Bank and the idea of microfinance, microloans, very small loans made to people that help them develop a business, grow a business, start a business, sort of embrace that entrepreneurial spirit and do something with it. And so we laid out a model for it ended up being Jurgen's pastor when he was growing up, who now is running an economic development group. And we said, would you implement this model if we sent you this $3,000? And he said, I don't know anything about microfinance. But if you tell me what to do, I'm happy to do it. And so we picked the community. That $3,000 turned into about 50 loans of $60 each. And we said we wanted 80% of the loans to go to women. We wanted the interest rate to be no more than 1% per month, and that all of the loan recipients needed to be in groups of at least 6. 8 would be ideal. And let them know that no one in that group is going to be able to take out a second loan until everyone in that group has paid back their first loan. Okay. So regardless of why somebody didn't make that first loan payment, everyone that was in that group was going to be impacted by that decision. And this was, sort of the beauty of the Grameen Bank model. By creating these peer support and peer pressure groups, you maximize the chances that loans are going to get paid back. And in fact, of those initial loans that we made, all of them were paid back. And all of those people wanted a second loan, and people were lining up to get first loans.
Sure.
And so my students, we continued to, we did fundraisers, and we continued to raise money for the next 3 years. I traveled to Haiti in 2011 and again in 2013. And clearly these loans were making a difference. The little community that we were in, the program was being actually run through the church there. And they had, in 2011, when I was there the first time, very little infrastructure. The community I was in was basically a crossroads that had a market that people would come to. When I came back in 2013, there was a school, there was a medical clinic, and there was a government support building. that the community felt was all because we had identified them with this loan program and that they were, taking off.
Yep.
So, we were quite happy with running a program in Haiti, but in early 2014, we were approached by a group of returned Peace Corps volunteers from the Philippines who said, there was just a similar natural disaster in the Philippines where they had an
Yep.
earthquake followed by a typhoon in late 2013. Could we do the same sort of thing in the Philippines as you did in Haiti? And we said, well, we need a partner to work with. And they said, well, we can take care of that. And I said, and you need to raise money because the money that we've been raising has all been targeted towards Haiti. And they said, yep, we can do that. And we launched that program in the Philippines in late 2014, working with some credit unions. So,
Okay.
we were working with a nonprofit in Haiti, and we were working with credit unions in the Philippines, and both programs were working very well. Again, majority of the loans were targeted at women, low interest rates with these groups, and our repayment rates were really high.
Yeah.
And so we continued on. Could continue to enlist students in various projects. At one point, I had a team of students that I tasked with coming up with a survey that we could give to the loan recipients before they took out their first loan, before they took out a second loan, and before they took out a third loan, so that we would have measurements. We'd have points in time. We'd have a time continuum series of data.
Yep.
And we'd ask them about things like, how many meals did you eat in the last week? How many of those meals had a source of protein? How many days were your kids in school? What's your roof made of? What's your floor made of? How many pots and pans do you have? How we ask them about health outcomes. And we started administering those surveys. And again, you need 18 months at a minimum, probably 2 years to get any usable data. But we've now been doing it for quite a long time. And we found that loan recipients actually have a better quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it a quality of life survey. And they are, in fact, eating more meals. They're eating meat at more of those meals. Their kids are in school more often, and they have better health outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, our focus isn't community at the community level. Our focus is really at the individual level, primarily the women in the family. And we can now confidently say with data that small loans over a period of time actually make a difference in a woman's ability to lift her family out of poverty.
Yeah. I mean,
That's kind of a cool story.
It's a very cool story. And here it's like the grand gesture. People think that they have to do something huge,
Right.
or it's not going to make an impact. But a $60 loan, like, here people are like, I can't fill my gas tank up.
Yeah.
Can't fill my car with gas for $60 here.
Yeah.
And I know I shared with you that we're part of B1G1, and for $29 you give somebody a goat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the hell would you give somebody a goat? And they're like, well, if you give it to specifically a female head of household, sorry guys, like the reality is in the microfinance world, women are kicking our butts.
Yep.
That they'll use it to make cheese and soap and things that they can sell to feed their family. So I think the reason I'm excited to be talking to you is it's another opportunity where even if you're just beginning your journey to give money, to donate to causes, if you're listening, we're all about entrepreneurialism. And this is a great way to get other people in the world that probably didn't have any other options started in being an entrepreneur. So
yeah,
super cool. It's a super cool story.
It's funny how much more entrepreneurially oriented people are in the developing world. I mean, here you survey students while they're in college or even in high school, and I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20% of them say, oh, yeah, I want to start a business, I want to run a business.
Yeah.
And I think if you do those same surveys in the developing world, it'd be like 80% or 90% of folks that they just feel responsible for, they're going to be the ones that are going to start the business, even if it's just a small business.
Yeah. I mean, it's life or death in some cases, right? Like,
right.
I mean,
Right.
here,
Yeah.
here they're thinking I'm going to start a SaaS company and
Yeah.
become
Right.
worth
Make $1 million.
$10 billion in 3 days or less,
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've been doing this for a while now. After the 2010 earthquake, what are a couple of big lessons that you've learned from creating a nonprofit? I mean, we talked a little bit about this too. It's still a business, right? Like, you got to
Very
have
much.
money to make loans. Got to be able to raise
Yep.
revenue. So, what are a couple big learnings that you would be willing to share with us over the last 15 years?
So for nonprofits and business, I don't think it's different. The care and feeding of either customers or donors, whatever we
Yeah,
call them, becomes the most important thing for
sure.
the organization. And so we've really focused on our donors and making sure that they hear stories about the loan recipients, that they get the data on loan repayments, that that we produce this kind of glossy annual report, which is kind of unusual for how small we are, that goes through repayment rates, percent of loans to women, how much money that we circulated over time. And I think I'd mentioned to you the last time we talked, in the 15 years, we circulated over $500,000 in loans, from a
60
little,
bucks at a time, 60
yeah,
to $100 at a time, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a
right.
massive impact.
Yeah.
Sorry to
And
interrupt you. Like, I
no,
mean,
but that's right. And, and we're an all volunteer organization.
yeah,
I mean, this is just a bunch of people that are passionate about making a difference, and engaging them and, giving them an opportunity to make that difference. And I mean, another thing that, would be a parallel from a business perspective, how do you attract people to the business, and how do we attract, people to the board and to the volunteer positions? You give them something to be really excited about. They want to feel good about the time that they're committing to either work or to the organization, and feel like they're making a difference.
yeah,
So I think that that's very comparable between your business clients and the nonprofits. We create these distinctions between nonprofits and businesses, but there's
yeah,
they're pretty artificial in
yeah,
most of the cases. So
right. I mean, in the nonprofit world, there's earned income and unearned income and a couple categories of each. And when you're listening to this, it's sales. Go sell something, right?
yeah, right.
Um, but the
Yeah, and we're
parallels,
selling ideas. So
right?
yeah,
The parallels are pretty specific, right? Like, you're selling ideas, they're selling widgets or services,
yep,
and in the nonprofit, it's a lot. In the for-profit world, sales decisions are 80% emotional and 20% logic. In the nonprofit world, it's probably pushing closer to 85-15 or 90-10.
yeah,
And
agreed.
I was thinking about you the other day because that B1G1 organization, one of their fundraising things is they go on visits. So you mentioned your annual report,
Yep,
and they will take a visit to the uh, causes, so to speak. So they'll take a bunch
sure.
of people over to Africa for 7
Yep,
days to see all the people that they're supporting, but they charge them a bunch of money.
yeah,
And so you feel great about, they're donating on average $5,000 plus whatever the cost of the trip is.
yep,
And people love it because they get to see, like you said, you were over there in 11 and 13,
yep.
seeing what you're doing, puts that emotion, puts the cherry on top, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think it's even more important these days, given the current government lack of interest in the developing world and
Right.
sort of the pulling back of USAID. There's just so much that groups like ours can still do, as far as not only supporting entrepreneurs in the developing world, but supporting a feeling like, yes, we can make something of ourselves. We
Yep.
can not only help our family, but as our family grows, we can hire other people from the community, where we're then helping the community, and we're participating in this world economy. Even
Yeah.
though our loans don't go to people that are trying to do export stuff. And this is just a unique thing about us. We really insist that all the loans go for products or services that are going to serve the local population.
Perfect.
There are other organizations that try and create export markets. It's just not our niche, right?
Yep.
We're trying to work really at that, like I said, that family level, and then the next step up from that is the community level. So
Yeah, that's what Darren Hardy says is you save the whales for me and I'll save business for you.
yeah,
Like everybody has a niche, and the more niched you are, the easier it is to have a crystal clear message for the right people and the right donors and things like that.
right.
How about a couple of challenges? I mean, in 15 years, you must have seen something go awry, and how did you get through it? Who kind of helped you with that?
Well, I mean, the very real challenge we have right now is in Haiti, right? The country fell apart. There is no functioning government. U.S. airlines aren't flying to Haiti any longer. The Department of State warns Americans about going to Haiti. Our liaison, who was Haitian, had to flee the country for Miami because of death threats that he and his family received. And so, we've been in Haiti for 15 years. I am confident that the relationships that we've built over that time continue to lead to more loans being made as money is paid back.
Yep.
Another unique thing about our organization is that money always comes back into a revolving loan fund and gets loaned out again.
Sure.
And so even though we aren't getting reports now from Haiti, our fingers are crossed that that money is continuing to make a difference in the community. Everything that we heard was that it was so welcomed, and in this case now we're working with an agricultural co-op. We had expanded, and not anywhere near the capital city, so sort of unaffected. Although they can't. Transportation is a real problem of transporting goods to other markets. But that's like this macro problem. I mean, we can't do anything about Haiti lacking a government or lacking a functioning government. And at some point, we believe we're going to be able to go back.
Yeah. Yep.
But it isn't at this point. And so,
Sure.
we keep our fingers crossed that this is going to work out as well as we can. Kind of a similar, very different problem, but a similar experience that we recently had. We're working with a foundation in the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
And the foundation is about, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes north of the capital, and really focused on the very poor that are not getting included in any government services. And we launched the microfinance program there. It's been very successful. But the government in the Dominican Republic decided they needed to start deporting some of these Haitians back to Haiti. And apparently this is a cycle. About every 5 or 7 years, they do that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, a number of our loan recipients were Haitians that one moment they're there and the next moment they're gone. And, these are all things, they're the costs of doing business, right? We learn as we go along. For listeners that have a chance to look at our last 2 annual reports, we had a 100% repayment rate. Well, in 2025, we're not going to have a 100% repayment rate because we lost a bunch of borrowers that got deported back to the other side of the dividing line between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. So.
I think the lesson is every business has problems, and if you think that uncertainty in the biggest economy in the world is your lose sleep over it, like just be aware that there are other bigger problems, and it doesn't matter what our situation is if you're a leader and an owner of a business, micro or otherwise, the world happens around you, and it's awesome because it's always also teaching us lessons that we can use. But no matter what, on your best day, the frickin' thunder can roll out like so flexibility and the ability to pivot are key skills. Yeah. So
I was just going to say, you do your best to minimize risk, and we've developed the program, and we insist on these groups and all the things. So we've really tried to minimize risk. We've never thought we had the risk of countries sort of imploding or countries changing their mind about some of the people that are there. So
I mean,
yeah,
if
do
you
what you
if
can.
you think about business though, right? In 1999, nobody had to worry about computers, and then they did.
Yep.
In 2008, 2009, we didn't have to worry about housing crashing, and then it did.
Mhm.
And in
Yep.
2010, we didn't have to worry about, earthquake in Haiti, and then we did. And in
Yep.
2000, the uh, overseas wars and oil crashes and the
Right.
rise of AI and whatever's happening in the world around us. COVID, who did
Yeah.
risk mitigation for COVID, right?
Right.
Until it happened.
Right.
So I think part of the message though is
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, you're smart enough to be listening to this. You're smart enough to get through some dramatic upheavals in the business environment. And it sounds like you guys are focused in staying ahead of maybe the most dramatic upheaval of no government in the country that you're operating in.
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
if you had to pick two or three people in your academic/business journey, who are really that you're most grateful for being around and being able to spend time with, like who are they and what did they do for, like, how do they poke you and prod you to keep you moving and growing?
So the first person I would choose would be Dan Anderson, who was a professor at the business school. And I started teaching classes in sustainability in 1994. Taught actually the first class in sustainability, and really thought my background was law and public administration. I was going to be talking about what the Clinton administration was doing at that
Yep.
time, and had the President's Council on Sustainable Development, and some cool things were happening. But shortly after I started the class, we changed over to the Bush administration, and the word sustainability didn't get issued. It wasn't never used by the federal government for about 20 years. And so by and large, the class changed to a class about business and business's commitment and interest and shepherding and leading on
Mm,
sustainability.
yep.
Starting with the original companies, the Patagonias and the Ben and Jerry's and the Toms of Maine and Body Shop and those kinds of things that were simply cut out of a different cloth. But then, over time, it was GE and Walmart and SC Johnson and Briggs and Stratton and Miller Brewing and, a whole host of
Sure.
companies that got on the sustainability bandwagon. And so Dan, because he had been there for a long time, was able to facilitate the growth of the classes that I was teaching from one class to two classes to three classes to we offered a graduate certificate in sustainability. And then the university started getting on board and we participated in the creation of the Office of Sustainability. And then there was
Yep.
an undergraduate certificate that was offered to campus. And now we're into a major in sustainability, all, within, 30 years now.
Yeah.
But, sort of being in the right place at the right time and growing student interest in this concept of sustainability. So relationship of sustainability and WorldWise MicroFinance, we had, as I mentioned, we had read this book about Banker for the Poor by Muhammad Yunus in fall semester. And that was really about the social side of sustainability. It was how do we treat each other, um, you know, relationship between business and communities, businesses and employees, those kinds of
Yep.
things. And so it was a natural fit as interest in sustainability grew beyond just the environmental stuff into the social stuff. That you know what this I said at the beginning, I never really set out to create a nonprofit, but but it happened and it
Yeah.
fit and it was a natural outgrowth of the stuff that I was doing. Um, so Dan was, I think, instrumental in shepherding me through sort of how do you work within an institution like the School of Business at Madison. And then the other person I'd say would just be my wife, that she's been so supportive of the work that we're doing internationally. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer from the Philippines.
Gotcha.
Um, on my board, I think I've got 3 or 4 other returned Peace Corps volunteers. It's still an active community in Madison and also nationally. And she's accompanied me on trips down to the Dominican Republic, and it's just been really, I think, supportive of, sort of the entrepreneurial bent
Yeah.
that I had that I didn't, that I didn't even know was there. So
Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about this at our pre-call, and like, it's a lonely business being a business leader or a business owner, and the support structures around people help us make better decisions, or, avoid catastrophic decisions in many cases. And, for those of you listening who are like, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps and I'm going to do it all on my own, you're probably going to be out of luck, right? Like, we do live in a complicated, interpersonal and interrelated world, and having somebody around you that can bounce your ideas off as, spouse, a mentor, or whatever is a perfect idea.
yeah.
So one final question: what's the next big thing for you and WorldWide Micro?
So I told the board at the beginning of this year that I retired from the university in 2019. I would like to retire from WorldWise MicroFinance at some point. And so we're on a 3-year glide path right now. But the challenge for us as a small organization is, as I mentioned earlier, we're all volunteer. And that's simply not sustainable in the long term. I don't know how I find somebody that's willing to give 30 or 40 hours a week to running the organization when I step away at the end of 2027. So we have to evolve. So we have to go from an all-volunteer organization to one that we have enough money to pay an executive director. Be wonderful to be able to pay a marketing person, because it's marketing and donor relations is probably one of the same stories that we tell. And then a development director to help us find additional funds. So we go from a all volunteer organization to a 2 or 3 person staffed organization, which is a big step for us.
Yeah.
Because currently we say right on the website, 90% of every dollar that's donated is turned into a loan. We're an all-volunteer organization. We have very low overhead, so that 10% covers all of that. And ideally, we would find a foundation or a benefactor that would believe in the organization and say, I get the vision. I understand this is the evolution that many small nonprofits go through, and it is the secret to remaining, vibrant and relevant in the future. But that's our challenge. And so over the next now 2.5 years, we'll be working on finding that funding, putting that funding in place, and then ideally finding the people that are going to be stepping in as I get ready to step out.
Sure. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, Tom. I mean, we've talked, I love the concept. For those of you listening, if you want to have an impact, there's no way that you're too small to have an impapt, right? If there's $60 micro loans, then start with something. And I'm never going to back off supporting entrepreneurship, because that's what we do. That's what we do for our living here as well. And I appreciate you being on the show. We'll drop a link to your website below.
Perfect.
And yeah, great. It's great chatting with you.
I just encourage people to reach out with any questions. So you can reach me through the website, or just tom@worldwisemicrofinance.org. So.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thank you so much.